Andor had, by luck of the draw, one of the easiest competitive weeks possible to chart on this thing, and it couldn't.
And they did everything.
1923, look at that, 450 million minutes. That's the fourth place show 2 weeks after it finished airing. That's about the same number of minutes as what the 10th place show or the 7th place show got the week before. There's no reason that Andor, with 2.5 hours of runtime for its 3-episode drop, even with only 2.5 days. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Renegade Online.
So 2 million people did that, roughly, or a little less than 2 million people maybe did that this weekend in America to go see Revenge of the Sith. They couldn't find 2 million people in North America to click a button on their remote, turn on the TV, and watch a brand new Star Wars show that they've spent $650 million to make the first 2 seasons of.
So wait a minute, $650 million to make Andor. How much to re-release Revenge of the Sith?
How much to re-release it? Whatever they spend on marketing, probably 20, 30 million bucks, maybe.
Okay. Just checking.
If they spent even that much.
I'll tell you this much, it cost a fraction of what it cost George Lucas to re-release the Star Wars films in 1997, because those were at least released on film prints. This is all just DCPs in every theater.
Yeah. You don't have the physical cost of delivering film stock anymore. But yeah, so here we are. Andor is not on this chart. Star Wars Andor, which still to this day boggles my mind how that show was ever greenlit for a second season, considering its very low audience.
I think it was
viewership.
built in from the start. That's why.
Well, it may have been, but go back and cancel it. When you spend $300 million to make a season of a show and you get the lowest audience of any Star Wars show by far up to that point, because Skeleton Crew hadn't come out yet, right? Even the Acolyte, I think, brought in more viewers.
Yeah, it was as a comedy, yes.
Right, that's the point. But people watch. Here's the thing. And they turned around and they've spent another $300 to $400 million on season 2 of Andor. And by the math, right here, okay, it's really simple. Look at Bosch Legacy at the bottom. It's an Amazon Prime show. That was the season finale week. 278.9 million minutes consumed. So all Andor had to do in its first 2 to 3 days, which is basically whoever's going to watch the show. When it comes to a television show, I don't care if it's streaming or if it's on broadcast or cable. I don't give a damn. Most people who are going to tune in and watch it, it's going to happen in the first couple of it's just 2 or 3 days. It's just like a YouTube video or anything else. That doesn't mean that word of mouth can't expand the audience over time, but let's be realistic here. 278.9 million minutes. That's all Andor had to beat. Andor released with not 1, not 2, but 3 episodes whose total runtime was about 2.5 hours. It is about the same amount of runtime as Revenge of the Sith with its trailers in front of it. Okay? And this is why I said we know we had, because we can see the box office, we know we had about 2 million people show up to the theaters this weekend to go see a re-release of Revenge of the Sith, a 20-year anniversary version. They left their house. They drove their cars 20 minutes to a theater. They bought popcorn. They bought drinks. They bought dinner at the theater. They bought the movie tickets. That's a much bigger investment of time and money than to watch the brand new Star Wars show. And they didn't get anywhere near that many watching Andor.
And people understand, this is not the top 10 streaming. This is the top 10 streaming originals.
Just originals, right.
Right. This is a subcategory. I don't even know what the heck Happy Face is. I mean, I have a happy face, but I don't know what this is. And Star Wars, the brand new $600 million Star Wars series can't beat freaking Happy Face, whatever that is.
No, but I don't know what the runtime is of Happy Face. I don't know if it's one episode or what. Here's the thing, though. 278.9 million minutes. Let's go back to this number. That's the number that Andor had to beat. It came out Tuesday evening. It had Tuesday evening. It had all day Wednesday, 24 hours of Wednesday, all day Thursday, 24 hours of Thursday. By the time 2.5 days goes by, on average, okay, for a television show, a streaming show, it's probably already banked at least half of its audience for the week until the next episode comes up. We're not talking about a binge model, guys. We're talking about episodic release. Oh, Valiant, maybe some people just watched the first episode. They hadn't got, come on. You're telling me that people that binge watch everything all the time on Netflix couldn't sit there and watch 3 episodes of Andor that amounted to basically the length of a movie, a longer movie like Revenge of the Sith? Yes, they did. And yes, they could have if they wanted to. But all it needed was 280 million minutes. If you do the math on that and you say, okay, it had about 150 minutes of available watch time for Andor. 150 minutes times a million people would be 150 million minutes. 2 million people watching that would have been 300 million minutes. That's it. It needed 2 million people and it would have charted. This is one of the weakest weekly charts that I've seen in a while, meaning that the fact that the 10th place show only had 278 million minutes. Usually the 10th place shows on these Luminate charts, let me show you what I'm talking about. That's why I saved these, because they go away after a while. Here was the previous week, April 11th to 17th. Pro, Love on the Spectrum. What was the amount of watch time on the 10th place show that week?
By golly, I think I see a 4. It's 400 million plus. Which is typical for these shows to make it onto the subchart.
Here's the week before, Pro. $1 Million Street, also on Netflix. How many watch minutes did that get in the 10th place for streaming originals?
Believe with my little eye, I spy 327.4 million minutes watched.
And again, that was the same week that the season finale of 1923 brought in 2.8 billion minutes watched, okay? A show that cost half of what Andor costs, by the way. The 10th place show this week, 278 million minutes. In other words, guys, girls out there, Andor had, by luck of the draw, one of the easiest competitive weeks possible to chart on this thing. And it couldn't. It couldn't.
And they did everything. They did everything.
1923. Look at that. 450 million minutes. That's the 4th place show. 2 weeks after it finished airing. 450 million minutes for 1923. That's about the same number of minutes as what the 10th place show or the 8th place show, the 7th place show got the week before. That's what I'm telling you. This was a really weak week. This was easy. They could have climbed this chart. There's no reason that Andor, with 2.5 hours of runtime for its 3-episode drop, even with only 2.5 days, it should have been able to beat Mobland that did 529 million. I mean, it's ridiculous. And again, we're talking about a show that's one of the most expensive shows on television. It's been out, it's been done. Like I said, 1923 has been finished for 2 weeks. You look at some of this other stuff. Bosch Legacy, that was the day. This measurement period picked up a day or two after the season finale for Bosch happened. So this didn't even catch the first day of when the season finale came out, which is the biggest audience. The first day something drops is typically the biggest audience. Now, if we remember, The Acolyte, Disney came out, and within 5 days or 6 days, they gave us a report. The Acolyte draws 11 million global, not domestic, global views after 5 to 6 days. And then we got the same thing from them with Ahsoka, 14 million global views in the first 5 to 6 days. They never reported anything for Skeleton Crew because Skeleton Crew's viewership was in the toilet. Does anybody right now want to take a guess whether or not Disney is going to have the balls to put out the viewership numbers for Andor's global views?
I would say not. Valiant, let me put this up on the screen real quick for you. I think this will illuminate what Disney's going to do instead. Press release they put out today.
Yep.
April 27th, 2025. Star Wars Revenge of the Sith shows lasting appeal with 42.2 million. I got a feeling Disney would have much better enjoyed putting out a press release that praised Andor for record-breaking viewership. Instead, they're having to praise George. That tells you everything you need to know about where this company is. They don't have the ability to praise the content they're making. It's just not there.
That's it. And that's what I was going to say. What's the propensity for them touting this on the earnings call? You realize right now that this re-release of Revenge of the Sith, let me pull this up because I was going to circle back to this, and I guess it's as good a time as any.
And I'll tell you this, as you circle back, I'll just say, like, this is it. It's over for Star Wars because after this live action series, there are no more live action series until we get to the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Like, that's it. We are done.
That is Ahsoka 2. It's the only other thing they actually have in the till. That's it.
But they don't even have a release date for Ahsoka season 2. This is how bad it is. Folks, there's nothing left. You want to say Star Wars is dead? It might be time to actually legitimately say it, because after this, we've got Tales of the Underworld, Vision season 3, cartoons, right?
Season 2.
Then
right?
eventually we'll get Mandalorian and Grogu movie next year. After that, we got a cartoon. I think it's called Shadow Lord or something. And that's it. There's nothing else. We've reached the end of Star Wars stuff. Everything else they've announced is quote unquote in development.
Yep, it's garbage. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you once again to George Lucas's Star Wars Revenge of the Sith from 2005.
Yeah.
A re-release after 20 years. Ladies and gentlemen, the most successful cinematic release of the Walt Disney Company this year. That's it. We put out a $400 million with marketing. Throw in the film tax credits. You know, they spent $400 million to make Snow White. Let's say they net it down to $300 to $320 million of production costs. Another $100 million in marketing. $400 million being generous here, what they spent on Snow White. A total disaster. Then we had Captain Falcon DEI, another $300 to $400 million investment by Disney for a movie that nobody wanted, starring a character that wasn't actually Captain America, that nobody watched the television show about. Yeah, it did $400 million, but great. They still lost a couple $100 million on that movie, right? So like we said before, Disney, between those two films alone, started out $500 million, $500 million in the hole for this year so far. They finally got a movie that came out and made money for them. A 20-year-old Star Wars George Lucas film.
They could use some more of these.
And we don't even know yet what Thunderbolts are going to do, but if I had to guess, chances are, based on historical performance, and I don't care, people liked it, this or that, it's going to have some type of absolutely radically historical performance for this to be wrong. That movie's probably also going to lose money. It's just what's in the cards. It may not, but as of right now, if you play nothing but the mathematical odds based on all the historical data that we have for phases 4 and 5 of Marvel up to this point, knowing what we've got here, it's another movie that's based on characters from television shows that people didn't watch on Disney Plus, or characters from a Black Widow film from 4 years ago that also nobody really watched or remembers. So good luck. But everything right now says we're going to have another dump for Disney here, and it's Lilo and Stitch is not going to be able to get them out of the hole for what they dug themselves into this year so far.
No, and it will be successful, not in completely removing them from the negatives, but it'll be successful. And you might say that it's pretty darn close to a remake as well, because it's literally just the CGI-ification of a cartoon. It's going to be beat for beat the same, and good for them for doing that. But what do you got then? For the first 9 months of the year, the only two successful films that Disney is likely to have are flat out remakes or just put it back on the theater. That's it. So the modern stuff isn't working. Here's the other thing, Valiant. If we're comparing this now with how Andor is doing, here's what you got to think about. I now say that there is no guarantee that Mandalorian and Grogu releases next year with any kind of buzz. Like, I'm not sure that Star Wars in its modern incarnation has really any significant support. So unless it's a fantastic film, I don't know where the support's going to come from. I think that they have to earn every single inch as they scratch and claw their way back into the marketplace. And I don't see it happening.
I don't either. Again, I think this is really kind of embarrassing for Disney in this regard. Just casual observation here, even anecdotally. What you've got right now, okay, is you've got a movie in the theater, 20-year-old re-release that is creating more buzz, more excitement from everything I've seen than Andor has. I mean, yeah, there's people talking about, oh, you know what? You should watch it. It's a good show. It's, oh, it's not that bad. Or, yeah, it starts off slow. I'm like, I heard this about the first season, that it started off slow and it got better. It's fine. But what are people talking about? What was the marketing blitzkrieg for Andor that Disney had set up before the show dropped? Because all the articles that came out were interviews that were done clearly before the show dropped. This is how we were promoting the show. This was not by accident. This was by design. This was Disney's choice. We were going to make Andor talking about how it dealt with violent sex crimes in the Star Wars universe. And I realize people out there, oh, well, come on. Look, you just watched Revenge of the Sith last night. They've had some hard adult things in there, like with heads getting cut off, hands getting cut off, Anakin burning in lava, graphically showing his skin, melting and burning and all. I get all that. Here's the difference, guys and girls out there. When Revenge of the Sith came out, or when Jango Fett's head came off in the Phantom Menace, I think at the Sword of Mace Windu, if I'm not mistaken, we didn't have articles that were focusing everybody in on those moments the day it came out.
Right. And they weren't social victories. Like, that wasn't a place where they're like, we have never shown this before. This is the kind of trauma that is really taking us in a more progressive place. Like, nobody said that. This was all set up to be a virtue signal.
It's okay to show off people getting their arms cut off and stuff like that all the time and heads. It's no problem. We just can't have no sex in Star Wars.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.